I never thought I'd find myself in this position, sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at a half-empty suitcase, wondering how the hell I got here. My name is Mark, and I was married to Jessica for 7 years. We had what I thought was a solid relationship, filled with laughter, shared dreams, and, at least on my part, unwavering loyalty. But lately, something felt off. It was subtle at first, like a shadow creeping into our lives until it became impossible to ignore. Started when Jessica began spending more time with her travel agent. She had taken on a new hobby, planning elaborate vacations for our friends and family. The way she talked about him, Tom, was almost reverential. "He knows all the best spots," she'd say, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I brushed it off, thinking that it was just her enthusiasm for her newfound interest. I had no idea what was brewing beneath the surface. Then came the late nights at work and the sudden need for me time. I'd come home hoping to find her waiting with dinner, but instead, I'd find an empty house and a cold plate in the fridge. When I asked her about it, she'd roll her eyes and tell me I was being paranoid. "You know how busy things get, Mark. Stop overreacting." Her dismissive tone felt like a slap, but I wanted to believe her. I didn't want to be that guy who jumps to conclusions. But then, one evening, everything changed. I was cleaning out the garage when I stumbled upon an old box filled with our travel brochures. I was reminiscing when I noticed a receipt tucked inside one of them. It was a hotel booking in Vegas, made for 2 people. The booking date was just a week away, and I immediately felt my stomach drop. I didn't even need to think twice about it. I knew she was lying. I spent the next few hours in a haze, piecing together the clues that had been there all along. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the sudden interest in gym memberships and new outfits. Each little detail suddenly formed a grotesque picture of betrayal. I felt like I'd been hit in the gut by a freight train. I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that my wife, the woman I loved, was cheating on me with this so-called travel agent. That night I confronted her. I had the receipt in my hand and my voice trembled with both fury and heartbreak. "Jessica, we need to talk." She looked at me, her expression shifting from surprise to annoyance in a split second as she crossed her arms defensively. "What now, Mark?" I slammed the receipt down on the kitchen table, my heart racing. "What's this? A vacation in Vegas, just the two of you. Care to explain?" Her face went pale, and for a moment I thought she might actually confess. But instead she laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Really? You're going to believe a piece of paper over me?" She leaned back, feigning indifference. I was stunned. "You're denying it. How can you make excuses for this?" The anger surged through me like fire, but beneath it all was an ocean of sadness. I had trusted her. How could she do this to me? She rolled her eyes again, her classic move when she was caught. "It's just business, Mark. You're so dramatic. I didn't think you'd be this insecure." Each word felt like a stab, and I recoiled. The woman I loved was twisting the narrative, painting me as the villain in my own story. I could feel my world crumbling, but I was determined not to let her see how much she was affecting me. I had to stay strong. The confrontation spiraled into a barrage of accusations and defenses, with Jessica claiming I was suffocating her, and that I was the reason she wanted to escape. I was furious. How could she turn this around on me? I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. After she stormed off to our bedroom, I was left alone with my thoughts. The betrayal cut deep, and I could feel the pain pooling in my chest. I was heartbroken, angry, and bewildered all at once. How could I have not seen this coming? How could I have been so naive? Days turned into a blur of emotions. Each time I saw her, I was reminded of the trust we'd built and how easily it could all fall apart. I wanted to scream, to cry, to make her feel the weight of her betrayal, but I couldn't. Instead, I decided to take a different route. If she thought she could find excitement with her travel agent, I'd show her what true adventure looked like without her. I began planning my own trips, digging into all the places we had talked about visiting. I wanted to explore the world, and I was going to do it solo. I wanted her to see that life could still be full of adventure, even without her by my side. As I packed my bags for the first trip, I felt a mix of exhilaration and sorrow. I was heartbroken but resolved. This was my chance to reclaim my life, to find happiness in the chaos she had created. I was going to travel the world and make sure she saw every moment of it. This was just the beginning of my journey, and I was determined to make it one for the books. I booked my first trip to Bali, a place I had always wanted to visit with Jessica. I imagined us lounging on the sandy beaches, sipping cocktails and soaking up the sun. But now it was just going to be me, and I was surprisingly okay with it. I felt a surge of excitement as I researched local attractions, planned out my itinerary, and scoured Instagram for the best photo spots. This was my chance to reclaim my narrative. The day of my departure arrived, and as I stood in line at the airport, I felt a strange mix of emotions. I was thrilled about the adventure ahead, but there was also an undeniable ache in my heart. I could still picture Jessica's face, her dismissive laughter echoing in my ears. But I pushed those thoughts aside. I needed to focus on myself for once. As soon as I landed in Bali, the warm air enveloped me like a welcoming hug. I checked into a beautiful resort with views of the ocean, and for the first time in weeks I felt a glimmer of happiness. I spent my days exploring ancient temples, swimming in the crystal-clear waters, and eating delicious local cuisine. I snapped photos of everything, the vibrant sunsets, the lush rice terraces, and posted them online. It was exhilarating to share my journey, and I realized I was finally living for myself. Back home, I knew Jessica was watching. I could feel her eyes glued to my social media posts, each picture of me laughing and enjoying life a dagger in her heart. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, to see that I was moving on. The comments from friends and family flooded in, all positive, full of encouragement. It felt good to be the center of attention for a change, basking in the warmth of support and friendship. After a week of soaking in the sun, I returned home to a silent house. The emptiness was palpable, but it was also a space where I could reflect on what had happened. I couldn't shake the feeling of anger that bubbled beneath the surface, but I knew that my travels had opened my eyes. I had been living for someone else's happiness for too long, always accommodating Jessica's wants and desires while neglecting my own. I decided to confront her again. I wanted her to see that she had lost something great, something she took for granted. When I walked into the living room, she was sitting there scrolling through her phone, and I took a deep breath before speaking. "Hey, Jess, how's everything going with Tom?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. The way her body tensed told me everything I needed to know. Her eyes darted up and she forced a smile. "Oh, busy with work, just planning some trips. How was Bali?" She was feigning interest, but I could see the irritation seeping through her facade. "Honestly, it was amazing. I met some incredible people and I finally got to do everything I've always wanted to do," I said, my voice steady. "You should have seen the beaches. I posted pictures, but they don't do it justice." A flicker of jealousy crossed her face, and I relished in it. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. "I can't wait to go back again. Maybe next time I'll try something even more adventurous, like a solo trek in the Himalayas." Her eyes narrowed. "You think you can just replace me with travel?" she snapped, her voice rising. "You think that's going to make up for all the times I've put up with your boring routines?" I felt a rush of anger, but I held my ground. "This isn't about replacing you, Jess. This is about me finally doing what I want for once. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine." The tension hung in the air like a thick fog. I could see her processing my words, and for the first time I felt a sense of empowerment. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me any longer, and I knew that I deserved to find my happiness, even if it meant letting her go. "Fine," she huffed, her voice laced with bitterness. "Enjoy your little adventures. Just know that they don't mean anything without the right person to share them with." Her words stung, but deep down I knew she was wrong. I would find joy in my own experiences, with or without her. As she stormed off to the bedroom, I felt a bittersweet sense of freedom wash over me. It was clear that our relationship was spiraling into a chasm, and part of me felt a sense of relief. No more pretending, no more lies. I was ready to embrace my new life, and I was determined to make the most of it. The next destination on my list was a road trip across Europe. I had always dreamed of exploring the countryside, visiting quaint towns and sampling local wines. This time, there would be no one holding me back. I meticulously planned my route, making sure to hit all the highlights while allowing for spontaneous detours. I felt alive with anticipation, and the thought of traveling solo excited me more than I could express. I spent the next few weeks preparing for the trip, mapping out my journey and booking accommodations. I even reached out to a few friends who had traveled in Europe to get tips and recommendations. They were eager to hear about my travels and offered to join me for parts of the trip, which only fueled my excitement. Finally, the day arrived. I loaded up my car and hit the open road, blasting my favorite music and feeling lighter than I had in ages. Each mile felt like a step away from the betrayal, and every new sight I encountered brought a sense of renewal. I was finally becoming the person I wanted to be. As I drove through the picturesque landscapes of France and Italy, I couldn't help but smile. I was free, finally carving out my own identity. The weight of Jessica's betrayal no longer felt like a burden. Instead, it became a catalyst for my newfound adventures. And with every post I shared online, I knew she was watching. This was more than just a trip. This was my journey of self-discovery. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, and I had no intention of looking back. I was done being the victim of someone else's choices. It was time to write my own story. As I traveled across Europe, each day was a new adventure, filled with breathtaking sights and unforgettable experiences. I drove through rolling hills dotted with vineyards, wandered the cobblestone streets of ancient towns, and immersed myself in local cultures. I visited art museums, tasted mouth-watering cuisine, and struck up conversations with strangers who quickly became friends. Each encounter brought fresh perspectives and renewed my spirit. Every night, I would find a cozy little bed and breakfast or a charming hotel to rest my head. I'd often sit outside, sipping a glass of local wine, reflecting on how far I had come since my life had been turned upside down. The freedom I felt was invigorating. I was discovering not only the beauty of the world but also rediscovering myself. But as much as I enjoyed my travels, there were moments when loneliness crept in. I'd find myself at a beautiful sunset, the sky painted with shades of orange and purple, and I'd think back to the times Jessica and I had shared such moments together. There was a twinge of sadness that accompanied those memories, but I quickly reminded myself of the reasons I had embarked on this journey. I was here to reclaim my life, to build a future where I could thrive without the weight of betrayal holding me down. One evening, while in Florence, I met a fellow traveler named Emma. She was vibrant, adventurous, and full of life, everything I found myself drawn to. We struck up a conversation over dinner, and our shared love for travel sparked an instant connection. We spent hours talking about our experiences, our dreams, and the places we wanted to explore. Emma was passionate about photography, and her enthusiasm was contagious. We decided to explore the city together the next day. We visited the Duomo, climbed to the top of the tower, and marveled at the stunning views of Florence. Emma was an incredible photographer, capturing the essence of the city through her lens. We laughed, joked, and shared stories, and for the first time since my marriage fell apart, I felt a genuine sense of joy. As we made our way through the bustling streets, I couldn't help but notice how different this felt compared to my past experiences with Jessica. With Emma, there were no pretenses or hidden agendas. It was refreshing, liberating even. I found myself opening up about my journey, about the betrayal that led me to this point, and to my surprise, Emma listened intently. "You deserve to find happiness, Mark," she said, her blue eyes sparkling with sincerity. "What you went through must have been incredibly painful, but look at you now. You're taking charge of your life." Her words resonated with me. I had spent so long wallowing in the pain of my marriage's collapse that I had almost forgotten what it felt like to be supported and understood. It was a reminder that I could move forward, that there was life beyond betrayal, and perhaps even love waiting for me. As we shared drinks later that evening, I felt a shift within myself. I was no longer the heartbroken husband seeking revenge. I was becoming a man who valued himself and sought a future filled with passion and adventure. Emma and I exchanged contact information, and I promised to keep in touch as I continued my journey. When I returned to my hotel that night, I felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. I was no longer just moving forward. I was opening myself up to new possibilities. I had been so focused on showing Jessica what she was missing that I hadn't considered the incredible opportunities that lay ahead of me. As I continued my travels through Europe, I visited stunning cities like Barcelona, Prague, and Amsterdam, each one adding a layer of richness to my experiences. I made new friends along the way, travelers who, like me, were seeking to explore the world and find themselves. Each encounter reinforced the notion that there is so much beauty in the world, and it was waiting for those brave enough to embrace it. But the moment I had dreaded came when I returned home. I knew I couldn't avoid Jessica forever. The confrontation would come, it was inevitable. I had spent weeks away from her, growing stronger and more confident, but I still felt a knot in my stomach at the thought of facing her again. When I finally saw her, it was as if I had stepped back into a world I was trying to escape. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, and her expression shifted from surprise to irritation when she noticed me. "You're back," she said flatly, her tone devoid of warmth. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "Yeah, I am, and I've been doing a lot of thinking, Jessica." I tried to keep my voice steady, but the emotions bubbling beneath the surface were hard to contain. She looked up, her curiosity piqued. "About what? About how much fun you had without me?" There was a sharpness to her words, a bitterness that showed she hadn't changed at all. "Actually, it's about us," I said, my heart racing. "I've realized that the life we had together is gone. You made your choice, and I'm not going to let you manipulate me anymore." Her eyes widened, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of regret. But then she quickly masked it with her trademark dismissiveness. "You're being dramatic, Mark. You went on a few trips, that doesn't mean anything." "It means everything," I replied, my voice rising. "I learned that I can find joy and adventure on my own, and you're not a part of that anymore. I'm moving on." Her face twisted with anger, and she stood up, pacing the room. "You think you can just walk away from this? We had a life together, Mark. You're throwing it all away for a few vacations." "No, Jessica, I'm throwing away the lies you've built around us. I deserve better, and I'm finally willing to admit it." I shot back, the realization hitting me hard. I wasn't just ready to move on, I was fierce about it. We stood there in the silence, the tension between us palpable. I could feel the weight of everything that had happened crashing down, but I also felt a sense of liberation. I had faced the truth, and now it was time to live it. The conversation ended with her storming off, leaving me standing there, breathless but relieved. I had finally made my stand. I was no longer trying to prove my worth. To her, I was proving it to myself. And with that realization came a newfound sense of freedom. I had reclaimed my life, and now I was ready for whatever came next. The world was vast and filled with possibilities, and I was determined to explore every inch of it alone or with someone who truly valued me. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and embraced the future that awaited me. After that confrontation with Jessica, a weight lifted off my shoulders. I felt lighter, as if I had shed a layer of skin that had been suffocating me for too long. Now that I had made my intentions clear, it was time to focus on what truly mattered, my journey of self-discovery and the adventures that awaited me. I returned to planning my next trip, this time with even more enthusiasm. I had always dreamed of visiting Japan, a place rich in culture, technology, and tradition. It was a land filled with contrast, the ancient alongside the modern, and I felt a magnetic pull to experience it for myself. I started crafting an itinerary, researching everything from the bustling streets of Tokyo to the serene temples of Kyoto. This time, I wanted to immerse myself fully, to absorb every moment, every sight, and every taste. In the weeks leading up to my departure, I found myself excitedly sharing my plans with friends. They were supportive, encouraging me to document my experiences. One friend, Sarah, even suggested I start a travel blog to share my adventures with others. I hesitated at first. The thought of putting my experiences out there felt daunting, but my desire to inspire others, and perhaps connect with like-minded travelers, overcame my reservations. I launched my blog, and much to my surprise, it quickly gained traction. People were resonating with my story and the lessons I was learning along the way. The day of my departure for Japan arrived, and I was buzzing with excitement. As my plane took off, I felt a rush of adrenaline, knowing that I was heading into the unknown. Once I landed in Tokyo, the vibrant energy of the city enveloped me. The neon lights, the sounds of chatter, and the overwhelming aroma of street food were intoxicating. I had never felt so alive. I spent my days wandering through bustling markets, sampling sushi at corner stands and visiting historic shrines. I attended traditional tea ceremony, where I learned the delicate art of preparing matcha. I marveled at the contrast between the serene gardens and the chaos of the city streets. Each experience was a reminder that life was about embracing the present and savoring the moment. One evening, while exploring the Shibuya district, I found myself swept up in the lively atmosphere. I stumbled upon a small bar tucked away in an alley, filled with locals enjoying their dinner and drinks. Intrigued, I decided to check it out. I sat at the counter, and the bartender welcomed me with a warm smile. His English was limited, but we managed to communicate, laughing and gesturing as I ordered a drink. As I savored my drink, I struck up a conversation with a fellow traveler, a young woman named Mia who was also exploring Japan. We connected instantly, sharing stories about our travels and the unique experiences we had encountered along the way. Mia was adventurous and spontaneous, and I admired her fearless attitude toward life. The hours flew by as we exchanged laughter and stories, and before I knew it, we had formed a bond that felt almost immediate. Over the next few days, Mia and I explored Tokyo together. We visited the iconic Shinjuku-gyoen National Garden, where cherry blossoms were in full bloom, and took a day trip to Mount Fuji, where we marveled at its majesty. Every moment spent with her felt exhilarating, and I couldn't help but feel a flicker of something more than friendship stirring within me. One night, as we wandered the streets, we stumbled upon a charming little izakaya. The atmosphere was cozy, and the food was delicious. Over drinks, Mia looked at me, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "So, what has this journey meant for you?" she asked, leaning in closer. I paused for a moment, contemplating the question. Honestly, it's been a journey of self-discovery. After everything with my marriage, I realized I was living someone else's life. Now I'm finally finding out who I am, what I want, and what makes me happy. Mia nodded, her expression sincere. "That's beautiful, Mark. You deserve to find joy, especially after what you've been through." In that moment, I felt an undeniable connection between us. I appreciated her kindness and the way she genuinely understood my journey. I leaned in closer, feeling a rush of courage. "And you deserve it too. I'm glad our paths crossed." The evening deepened, and with it so did our connection. As we shared laughter and stories, I found myself drawn to Mia in a way I hadn't expected. It wasn't just her adventurous spirit or captivating smile. It was the way she seemed to understand my struggles and celebrate my victories. I hadn't realized how much I craved companionship until I met her. As the trip progressed, the bond between us deepened. We shared not just adventures, but also our vulnerabilities. I opened up about my past, the betrayal, and how it had shaped me. Mia shared her own experiences, her fears, and her aspirations. Each conversation felt intimate, and I found solace in her presence. But just as I was beginning to feel hopeful about this new connection, my phone buzzed with a familiar notification, a direct message from Jessica. My heart sank as I opened it, and her words echoed in my mind. "I miss you, Mark. Can we talk?" I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to continue focusing on the newfound happiness I had discovered with Mia, but another part felt a sense of responsibility. We had unfinished business, and I couldn't just leave her hanging. I stepped outside, needing some fresh air as I contemplated my next move. The city's lights twinkled in the distance, but my thoughts were consumed by the weight of Jessica's message. I knew that whatever I decided could alter the course of my life once again. The decision I made that night would determine not just the direction of my relationship with Jessica, but also my budding connection with Mia. My heart raced as I weighed my options, feeling the excitement of new possibilities mingling with the shadows of my past. I was at a crossroads, and how I chose to navigate it would shape the path I was on. With a deep breath, I returned to the group, ready to engage with Mia and our adventures ahead. I decided I wouldn't let Jessica's message dictate my emotions. For now, I wanted to be present in this moment, enjoying the thrill of exploring life, whether it led me to new love or deeper self-discovery. It was time to embrace the present, and I was determined to do just that. I knew that whatever lay ahead, I was strong enough to handle it. I was ready to face my past and savor every moment of the journey I had begun. The days passed quickly in Japan, filled with laughter, exploration, and late-night conversations with Mia. We ventured to historic Kyoto, wandering through the serene Arashiyama bamboo grove and visiting the golden Kinkakujai temple. With each shared experience, my connection with Mia deepened, and I found myself drawn to her more and more. Yet the thought of Jessica and her message lingered in the back of my mind. I had been determined to move on, to embrace my new life, but I knew that I couldn't keep ignoring the past forever. We still had unresolved issues that needed to be addressed. I was torn between wanting to keep my newfound happiness and confronting the reality of my previous relationship. One evening, after a day filled with adventure, Mia and I found ourselves at a quiet riverside cafe in Kyoto, the sun setting behind the hills and casting a warm glow over everything. We shared an intimate dinner, and as the conversation flowed, I felt a sense of comfort that was difficult to explain. She was easy to talk to, and I felt like I could be myself around her without fear of judgment. "Mark," Mia said, her voice softening, "you've been through so much. I can see how much you've grown since we first met. But I also sense there's something weighing on you. You don't have to tell me if you're not ready, but I want you to know that I'm here to listen." Her kindness struck a chord within me, and I realized how rare it was to find someone who genuinely cared. "You're right," I admitted, taking a deep breath. "I've been holding on to some unresolved feelings about my marriage. Jessica reached out to me, and I'm not sure how to handle it." Mia nodded, her expression understanding. "That's tough. It sounds like you're in a complicated situation, but remember, you're not obligated to reconnect with someone who hurt you. You've made so much progress." As I sat there, I weighed the implications of responding to Jessica. I didn't want to fall back into old patterns, but I also didn't want to be dismissive. I want to be fair to her, but I'm also terrified of losing what I've built here with you. I didn't expect to feel such a strong connection so quickly, and I don't want to jeopardize that. Mia reached across the table, taking my hand in hers. "You deserve to be happy, Mark. Whatever decision you make, just remember that you have the right to prioritize your own well-being. Don't let guilt or fear hold you back." Her words resonated deeply, and I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. I had spent so long feeling trapped in the weight of my past that I had almost forgotten what it was like to have someone genuinely support me. I squeezed her hand, appreciating the connection we had formed. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I pondered my situation. Jessica's message had stirred memories I thought were fading, and I realized the importance of closure. I decided that I would respond to her, but on my terms, one that reflected the clarity I had gained through my travels and my new friendship with Mia. I didn't want to return to the chaos. I wanted to address things with honesty and resolve. The next morning, I sent Jessica a message. I chose my words carefully, expressing that while I appreciated her reaching out, I needed to be honest about where I stood. I had spent time reflecting on our relationship and had realized that I wanted to move forward without her. I didn't want to rekindle what had been lost, but I was open to a conversation that could bring us both clarity. After hitting send, I felt a rush of anxiety but also a sense of relief. I was finally reclaiming my narrative, asserting my boundaries, and acknowledging that it was okay to prioritize my happiness. I turned my focus back to Mia and our remaining days in Japan. We spent the rest of the trip exploring local markets, trying street food, and visiting breathtaking temples. Every moment with her felt like a celebration of life, and I couldn't help but feel grateful for the way our paths had crossed. The more time we spent together, the more I realized how genuine she was. There was no drama, no manipulation, just two people enjoying each other's company. On our final evening in Tokyo, we found ourselves at the iconic Tokyo Tower, the city illuminated beneath us. As we stood there taking in the breathtaking views, I turned to Mia and took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "Thank you for being such an incredible companion on this journey," I said, my heart swelling with appreciation. "You've made this trip unforgettable." Mia smiled warmly, her eyes sparkling. "I'm just glad to have shared it with you, Mark. It feels like we both needed this adventure." As we leaned in closer, I sensed the electricity in the air. In that moment, it felt right to embrace the potential of what could be. I leaned in and kissed her softly, feeling a rush of warmth and connection that I hadn't experienced in a long time. It was a kiss filled with promise and a shared understanding that we were both on the brink of something beautiful. But even as I enjoyed this new connection, I couldn't shake the lingering shadow of Jessica's message. I was still waiting for her response, and I knew I couldn't ignore the fact that I had to face the realities of my past before fully embracing my future. When we returned home, I found myself with mixed emotions. On one hand, I had discovered a burgeoning romance with Mia. On the other, I waited to see how Jessica would respond. It felt like I was standing at a crossroads, with one path leading to a fresh start and the other tethered to the remnants of my old life. Days turned into a week, and I finally received a message from Jessica. She expressed regret for her past actions and requested to meet. I felt a mix of apprehension and resolve. I knew this meeting was necessary for closure, but I also felt the pull of the new connection I had with Mia. When the day of our meeting arrived, I found myself sitting at a cafe, nervously awaiting Jessica's arrival. I rehearsed what I wanted to say in my mind, determined to remain grounded and assertive. I was no longer the man who would simply accept blame for her choices. I was ready to take control of my narrative. When she walked in, I was struck by how little had changed about her. She wore a confident smile, but I could see the tension in her eyes. As she approached, I felt a wave of emotions flood over me. "Hey, Mark," she said, her voice tentative. "Thanks for meeting me." I nodded, my heart racing. "I appreciate you reaching out. I think we need to talk about everything that happened." As we sat down, the conversation flowed, filled with tension and honesty. Jessica expressed her regret and admitted that she had made mistakes. I listened, allowing her to share her thoughts, but I knew that I had to be firm in asserting my boundaries. "I've realized that I need to prioritize my happiness," I said, my voice steady. "What we had is gone, and I'm not looking to go back to that." The look in her eyes was a combination of understanding and sadness. "I get it, Mark, I messed up. I should have never let things get to that point. I'm sorry." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the conversation. "I appreciate your apology, but I can't go back to a place where I was made to feel less than I am. I deserve better." As our conversation continued, I realized that this meeting was not about reigniting old feelings, but about finding closure. I needed to affirm that I was no longer the same person who would allow myself to be hurt again. When we finished talking, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I had confronted my past, and for the first time I felt free from the weight of it. Jessica and I parted ways, and I walked away feeling empowered, ready to embrace whatever came next. With the chapter of my past finally closed, I turned my focus to the future, one that included Mia and all the possibilities that lay ahead. I was ready to explore new adventures, love, and experiences without the burden of regret. The journey wasn't over, it was just beginning. And this time, I was determined to embrace every moment. After my meeting with Jessica, I felt a newfound sense of liberation. I had confronted my past and emerged stronger, ready to embrace the future without the shadows of betrayal looming over me. The experience had taught me valuable lessons about self-worth and resilience, and now it was time to fully commit to my journey forward. I reached out to Mia, excited to share the news of my conversation with Jessica. I wanted her to know that I had closed that door, officially moving on from my past. We arranged to meet at a cozy cafe near my apartment, and I could hardly contain my excitement as I waited for her. When Mia arrived, her smile lit up the room. We settled into our seats, and I launched into the story of my meeting with Jessica, detailing how I had stood my ground and expressed my need for closure. As I spoke, I could see the pride in Mia's eyes, and it warmed my heart. "You did the right thing, Mark," she said, her voice encouraging. "You deserve to prioritize your happiness above everything else. I'm really proud of you." I felt a swell of gratitude for her support. "Thank you, Mia. You've been such an incredible part of my journey. I don't think I would have found the strength to face Jessica without your encouragement." "Let's celebrate," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "How about a weekend getaway, just the two of us?" The idea sent a thrill through me. I hadn't even thought about traveling again so soon, but the prospect of exploring a new place with Mia felt invigorating. "That sounds amazing. Where should we go?" Mia suggested a beach destination, somewhere we could relax, unwind, and just enjoy each other's company. We spent the rest of the afternoon planning the details of our trip, excitedly mapping out activities and must-see places. I felt a sense of anticipation building within me, a feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. As the days passed, our connection deepened further. We shared more than just adventures. We shared our hopes, dreams, and vulnerabilities. I found myself opening up to her in ways I hadn't thought possible. She was refreshing, a bright light in my life that chased the darkness away. When we finally embarked on our weekend getaway to the beach, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The ocean breeze felt liberating, and as we arrived at our hotel, I was filled with a sense of possibility. We spent our days lounging on the beach, swimming in the ocean, and indulging in delicious seafood. Each moment felt like a celebration of life, love, and everything in between. One evening, as we strolled along the shoreline, the sun setting on the horizon, I took a deep breath, inhaling the salty air. "You know, Mia, I never expected to feel this way again after everything I've been through," I said, my voice thick with emotion. She looked at me, her expression sincere. "It's never too late to find happiness, Mark. You've shown such strength in your journey, and I admire you for it. You deserve to feel loved and cherished." As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, I felt an overwhelming urge to express how much she meant to me. I turned to her, my heart racing. "Mia, I want you to know that I've never felt this way about anyone in such a long time. You've brought joy into my life when I thought I'd lost the ability to feel it." She smiled, her eyes glistening. "I feel the same way, Mark. It's like we were meant to find each other at this point in our lives." With the ocean waves crashing in the background, I leaned in and kissed her, feeling the warmth of our connection envelop us. It was a moment of pure bliss, a moment that solidified what we had together. As we continued to explore the beach, I realized how far I had come. I had turned the pain of betrayal into a journey of self-discovery and growth. I was no longer defined by my past. Instead, I was ready to embrace the future, one filled with love, adventure, and endless possibilities. When we returned home, the world felt different. I had a new outlook on life, one that celebrated joy rather than dwelling on pain. I had learned that love could emerge from the ashes of heartbreak, and that it was possible to find happiness again, even after betrayal. As my relationship with Mia blossomed, I made a conscious effort to nurture it. I remained open and honest, ensuring that we communicated about our feelings and expectations. I wanted to build a solid foundation with her, one that was rooted in trust and understanding. I also began to share my travel blog with a wider audience, documenting my adventures and the lessons I learned along the way. People resonated with my story of growth and resilience, and it became a platform for connection. I received messages from others who had experienced heartbreak, and I found immense satisfaction in sharing my journey with them. Through my travels, I discovered not just the beauty of the world, but also the beauty within myself. I learned that life is a series of experiences, both good and bad, and it's how we choose to respond to them that defines us. I was no longer the man who let betrayal define his worth. I was a man who embraced his journey and celebrated every step of the way. Reflecting on the past months, I realized that my journey had transformed me. I had faced the storm, emerged stronger, and found love again. I was grateful for every lesson I had learned, every adventure I had taken, and every connection I had made. And as I looked ahead, I knew that the future was bright. The world was full of promise, and I was ready to explore it, hand in hand with Mia, creating new memories and forging a path of love and adventure together. This was just the beginning, and I was ready for whatever came next.